wait there. Now you have to wait for the timer, Sherry.
Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you here on Beyond the Briefcase today. And we've got some amazing individuals that we are going to be chatting with a little bit later. I am Sherry Knight. I am with Dimension 11, and we have Barbara Ellison. We are co-hosts here, and we have an additional co-host. So, Barbara, tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, yeah. Hi, I'm Barbara Ellison. I'm the founder of Wellness Playroom for the best version of you. And I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception, because I believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead a happy, healthy, debt-free, abundant life. So I work with baby boomers and Gen Xers to have that, so that they have a healthy, thriving retirement. Retire, it doesn't mean to retire has to mean you'd have to die. You have to just learn how to retire well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, dear. And I'm Sherry Knight. I am with Dimension 11. And with that, we work with individuals, we work with corporations and smaller businesses as well, simply to help everybody get that foundation that they need to be able to move forward and love what they do instead of being worried about having to get up and go to work in the morning. Whatever that is, then you're in the wrong place. And so that gives you a little bit of hint in terms of us, but we will come back later and we'll talk about where do we get to. Paul, you've got a whole group here. We want to introduce you first, and then you'll be able to introduce your other guests. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I'm Paul Burch. We've also got Paul Huber on the call here, but my company Omni Online is entering its 15th year here. And so I was pretty excited when I got the invite from Sherry and Barbara to round up some interesting people and bring them onto the show. So I've got a connection with each of our guests here today. And I think they kind of each of them embodies a little bit of the theme of the show here today. So really excited to dive in and chat a little further. Because I do something that I heard a long time ago was be excited to get up in the morning, go to work, and be excited to go home at the end of the day. And I just, I really like that and feel that way about what I do. And so, yeah, I'm excited to hear from everybody, and thanks for the invite.
Excellent. Okay, and you've got some guests here. All right.
I do,
Who do you go to first?
Well, let's start up. We'll go clockwise on mine. We've got Paul Huber, the other Paul, so we can get that out of the way. And Paul, what can you tell us about you and your business?
First off, thanks for the invite, Mr. Burch. So I'm Paul Huber. I am the publisher and co-owner of Industry West magazine. Got a copy. This is our last edition. This is actually the last edition that we ever published, because we're doing a big pivot and transitioning to a digital platform. Mm-hmm. So some people might not know of that, but it's been a plan in the making for a while that we've really been excited about, and we're actually we're transitioning from focusing on only Saskatchewan to focusing on Western Canada. There's just been a lot that has gone into that. So we have that, but we also have a couple other even bigger projects that we're working on that I won't talk about now. I know the suspense, but yeah, that's my life in a nutshell right now.
Well, that's great. That is Paul and I met, and with this new transition, it's going to be killing one of my best longstanding jokes with him, because he came to Omni Online when he was ready to get started and said, I'm doing a magazine and we're going to need a website. And I said, I will take your money, but have you heard of the internet? Are you sure you want to do a print magazine, right? Like, is this the right time? And he said, oh yeah, don't worry about it. And since then has grown it was an incredibly successful print publication. Yes. In this digital age. It provided stability and that tactile experience, and was a very successful publication that I then circled back and was working with him directly on the magazine for a while as well. So I'm excited to see the next generation of that, but where we're at 7-8 years later, and the magazine itself really, I think, helped shape conversations around business in Saskatchewan. So it's really exciting for me to see what's coming next with Industry West. So
Paul is a great writer, by the way, if anybody doesn't know that.
No, it's
a copy of his children's book at home. So
there we are. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. Go play outside. So I think if that's Paul's introduction, we'll move now to Jasmine. Jasmine and I met a few years back, and I think it's quite extraordinary now that she's living abroad, because she was here and working very hard in Regina to really build businesses, but was finding a lot of her success. And I don't want to tell her story, but this really stuck with me because we were literally at an area trying to champion Regina and Saskatchewan tech. And it came to light that she was having a lot more success outside of the province, because we have this sort of this real sort of aura about Saskatchewan where people would rather deal with bigger company, they want to deal with the big city folk or something. So people from outside were recognizing her abilities and specialties, but she was having a little trouble with necessarily get some traction here. So Jasmine, as I said, I was super excited to get a hold of you and get you on the show, because last we talked, you weren't living where you're living, you weren't doing what you're doing. So I'm excited to get the update.
I took it to the extreme. Thanks so much for having me. It's so great to see you people all here today, and thanks for putting this together and for running it. These podcasts are such a great service to people. So thank you for that. I'm Jasmine Benson. Many people who are listening to this would know me as Jasmine Kernaligan. I grew up in Saskatchewan, small town Saskatchewan. And now I'm living in Southeast Asia most of the year. I'm a professional speaker, author, CEO, coach, consultant, and digital creator. I help companies shift from traditional leadership, traditional hierarchy and bureaucracy into more agility, modern leadership, helping them implement change that's more aligned with how human beings actually change. So implementing neuroscience, human performance science, and this enables business performance through people performance and happiness, and leaders who become talent magnets. So essentially, helping them make better places to work. And I'm doing that from all over the world. Just as Paul said, I found a lot more success with people away from home than I did at home initially. So that's where I'm at.
Nice.
And we got Brendan Ware as well. He was late and didn't put his full name in, but that's who he is. And he and I go way back. You talk about go play outside, but I think highlights for children, Brendan, is where we go back talking a little bit. So straight back to marketing classes at the U of R in what could probably be calculated pretty close to decades ago now. But I don't like to think of those type of terms, but Brendan and I go way back and have been involved in some very fun stuff I'll let him talk about. But he's if you don't know him, you'll have seen him around town. And Brendan, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Well, Paul and I have been involved in our local sports teams and on the volunteer boards and stuff. I got to unmute myself.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I hope. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm good now. Okay, so I don't know what happened. I glitched or something. But thanks for having me, everybody. And Paul and I go way back to university days, and since then I think I had suckered him in to get involved with our volunteer board with what's the Regina Thunder, a local football team, and we do a lot of things in the community and run into each other quite a bit. But I have a real estate company, so we do typical real estate services. But I was, it's called Coldwell Banker Local Realty. And there's 40 of us here, but I was at, I think the interesting part of my story is I was at another organization, another brokerage, and I was part of the plan for succession. And as you're there for a while and you're helping out and you're trying to initiate change, sometimes if you don't have control or I would have ideas and only 10% of them would get implemented, where you don't have the control and the ability to press the buttons the way you think overall the big picture it should be done. It's very difficult to initiate that change. And so I took a master's certificate from Royal Roads during COVID called Workplace Innovation. And part of my project was my real life situation. And it became very apparent that it needed to be its own company and have a fresh start and set our pillars and what we dreamed or what we believed in right from the beginning. And it was easier to start from scratch and create the brokerage that I wanted to be at instead of trying to change the one I was in. and so I left and started and didn't take a bunch of people with me. Started day one with my own, and just had created all these notes I had in my head of all the things I wanted to change where I was at, or ideas I saw at other places that I liked. We implemented all those, and we grew, became the fastest growing Coldwell Banker office in Canada, and grew from 0 to 40. And I think it was about a year and a half. And because we had a place that people wanted to be in, we kind of attracted them with honey instead of trying to change what was already there at another brokerage. And there's that phone call that you couldn't figure out how to turn off. But and that's where we're at. We just celebrated our, I guess it was 2 years in October. So we're halfway through year 3, and things are going well. So
Wonderful. Good show. So now we've met everybody. Jasmine, you were going to say something.
I took the batteries out of my phone.
There's always a way.
I'm a problem solver. I'm a problem solver.
Sounds good. Oh dear. Sounds good. So we're talking here about beyond the briefcase, all the things that we do that give us the life that we want to lead outside of work. And so looking at that, what are the things, Barbara's talked about our 3 stories. What are the things that make the difference for you? Why are you where you are now? Because that doesn't start overnight. That started a long time ago. And that's what Bryn was alluding to. So, Paul, I'm going to let you take the reins here and make sure that we have an opportunity to hear from everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm trying to start with kind of what's fresh in our mind from the conversations here. And I just want to mention, like when Bryn talks about getting involved in some of the local sports teams, he was the president of the Regina Thunder and asked if I would help be a part of it. I jumped on that because to be involved in that, and he led the team to a national championship. So it was under his leadership, really kind of this team building. And I was thinking about this, just over the last little bit here, because when you say stuff like that, the number of people involved in that situation, but with Brynette as the president, and I've been a part of other organizations, and to get that kind of where everybody in the organization has the same goal, and it's just clearly stated, we're here to win the national championship, and it doesn't matter board members, the coaching staff, the support staff, the players, the fans, everybody knew what that was about and where we were going with that, and it was pretty remarkable to be a part of that and see what could be accomplished. Again, in a fairly short amount of time, he took over, and the team was firing on all cylinders. So it's a really fun thing to be a part of, and one of those things you keep with you for years. But being involved in those types of events and organizations it's not something that you don't do it because necessarily it looks good on a resume or something like that, right? Like you do it because it's fun, and it gives you back what you want, and it feeds you, right? And to be a part of communities like that, make friendships and make connections, and there's so many benefits to it. So I thought it was kind of, when we talk about being involved in a community sport, we've also played some local dodgeball and stuff like that, but there's all sorts of things to do and things to be involved in. So and I don't know what you're doing, because I know this that was a while back now, Bryn, and I've watched the team continue to evolve and grow. And what are you involved in these days?
I'm still there, and it's hard when you're involved in these volunteer boards to step away. But we have two major fundraisers, and I kind of put my foot down a little bit last year and said, "Hey, I've really enjoyed my time here, but I've got this other business and a daughter that's 10 that's in gymnastics 15 hours a week, and we're planning some travel this summer." And I said, I still want to be involved, but I'm just going to take on these 2 projects instead of getting involved with everything. And sometimes you have to step back so others can step up, and we're seeing that a little bit. But you're right. Back in that was 2013 that we won that championship, and I learned a lot about culture and the power of culture. And when I started, it was a lot of the coaching staff and the football side were spending so much money, and they're saying, well, you got to raise more money, and the board's frustrated because they're spending more money and no one's talking, and they're very much against each other. And we were able to kind of lead the way and get people on the same page. And it went a long ways from feeling like a little volunteer club to feeling like we belonged and we could compete. And I learned a lot about culture at that time. So you're there, you're right, not to build a resume, but you're there to build experiences. And you see, because it was 11 years ago and they were 22-year-old, they now have kids and are lawyers, and some are doctors even. And you see them around the community and you're like, geez, I remember when you're this snotty-nosed little kid playing football. But so you get a lot more out of it than you put in sometimes, and meet great people. So, but it's been great.
Any truth to the rumor that Ryan Reynolds based the Wrexham project off of your work with the Regina Thunder? Is that?
Yeah, it was a good. That's where we got the idea.
The story just parallels so close. I just assumed it was. Yeah. No, that you mentioned a great point, man. That both two things get my mind going here. I coached rugby for a long time, and I was coaching high school age, and that was long enough ago now that these kids are now adults, and it's just wild to see. And that's great, but also just the stepping back or making room for new people to come in, because I think especially volunteer organizations, but any organization, you start to lean on people and rely on people, and it gets really tough to transition and grow, right? And any kind of, if you're irreplaceable, then that's difficult. So Paul Huber, we were just talking. So Bryn was talking about his daughter doing gymnastics, and I know your daughter is not at gymnastic age yet, but how are you finding? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, they'll be scouted for the national team fairly shortly, I think. I don't know what age that starts at, but it's still in months. But how are you finding that balance? Like, it's tough with new kids and trying to build a new business while you got a new baby. How are things going?
I mean, it's going. Like, it is. It's quite an experience. It's just something that I was really ready for it. I don't know. I'm in my early 40s, and I was just very happy to start a family. And I've been an entrepreneur now for 7 or 8 years. And so, I mean, I work from home, which is a huge asset in terms of that work-life balance. My wife and I, we've remarked, a fair bit that having that ability to be at home, and I can run upstairs if I need to help her with something. Like, that's huge. You certainly feel that situation when a lot of men have to be away from their wife and children for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Like, that's, to me, I would hate that, because I'm so blessed that I can go up and see my daughter whenever I want, and that's a really nice balance to have.
Oh, for sure. You find it can be distracting? I do. I say that sometimes is the kind of one of the main benefits of running your own business is the flexibility, right? And it's this weird. So, I mean, if you need to take some time, you take some time, but there's also that trap because I got to tell you, these days I get up in the morning and I think, man, I got to go provide. And then the door closes behind me, and I think, what am I doing? What am I wasting time? I gotta be back. I should be at home here, spending time with my daughter, right? So, just having her down the hall, you find that gives you that little bit of relief. You can pop your head out the door, or is a bit of a distraction?
A bit of both. We've got, I think they're called French doors with like the glass panes. So, I mean, Amanda will bring Maeve down once in a while, and like Maeve's now at the age where like she can come and like find me and like look through the window. And it's like, oh my God, okay, well, daddy's got to get up now. So yeah, that's a distraction, but that's a happy distraction. I'll take it, any day.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Jasmine, I want to just notice that after years of fumbling over your last name, you've got a new one. And so if nothing else, I sure appreciate that. How is that? How are things going with you?
Things are good. I do have an easier last name to pronounce. I started getting introduced at conferences as Jasmine K, because they couldn't do it, and it was safer and easier. So now Jasmine Benson is obviously a lot more, just slides right off. So yeah, I think of this balance. Well, I've taken this idea to the extreme. Obviously, I live in Thailand, but I think of it differently in terms of, I think more about leading a life that I want to lead as a whole person, and leading kind of an integrated life that I enjoy. And there's multiple facets of that. There's physical, there's health, there's work, financial, and there's personal and fun and adventure and travel and all that stuff, right? So I think for me, it's, thinking about 10 years down the road, what do I want me to look like? What do I want to be satisfied with, that I did now in 10 years? What does that look like? And then, just having that perspective. And I think, making moves from there. I made some big decisions over the last couple of years to do this. And those were, because of things that had happened. And I don't regret it for a second. I am living the life that I want now, for sure.
Awesome. No, it's people talk about butterfly effect and think about if you could go back in time and make small changes, it'll make a big impact on today, right? And it's like, but if you do something today, that's going to change the future, right? And it's just a difficult thing to get your head around. So making those big decisions. Bryn?
I wanted to say that's the second time I've heard recently someone use the word integrated instead of work-life balance. And it was a realtor that said it last time. And I said, how are you balancing all this, turning off from work and going to personal life? And I think after COVID and after all this stuff, that doesn't exist anymore. I think the new buzzword is this integrated work, personal life integration, right? And just trying to coexist between these work responsibilities and your personal life. And depending on your business, it may never have this shut off at 5 o'clock that we used to have and go to the office from 9 to 5 and go home. And now they're all kind of just integrated, and it's trying to figure out how to integrate them in a positive way that you can still have balance, I guess. But I think we're going to hear that integrated word a lot more than balance over the next little while.
Well, and it comes out in so many different ways too. And it had to start somewhere. And so, I'm going to call on Barbara now just to look at this whole aspect about what was the pivotal point for you, or one of them, because for most of us, as Bryn has indicated, and Paul and Jasmine, there was something that made the switch go on that said, I need to do things differently. So Barbara, let's start with you.
For me, it was when my husband passed away. I didn't expect to be a widow so young. But when I woke up from my widow's fog, I realized in that moment that I had no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself, of being a daughter, and then being a wife, and then being a mother, and then being a divorced failure, and then being a successful wife again, and then being a grandmother, and now I'm a widow. Who am I in all of that? Realized that I had no idea how to find it, how to do it. It's like I just knew something had to change. And I can tell you exactly where I was sitting when I had that decision moment. I have got to do something to change. Well, got into my first coaching program. And so that's why now I love working with late career business professionals they're looking at retirement. It might be a year from now, it might be 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, but they want to, I love that word, they want to have an integrated life now. Because one of the things that I talk about so often is visualizing your future you. Well, your future you starts today. You don't all of a sudden wake up as your future you unless you've done something today to that butterfly effect. So now I love working with them. And when I see the light bulb go on, that goes, oh, I don't have to choose. But you can choose to have it all. You don't have to choose between business and personal. You can integrate the two of them together and you can have it all and be that happy, healthy, debt-free, and abundant. And it impacts everything that you do. But sometimes we just have to be given permission. I had one of my guys, it was like I gave him permission. He said, oh, and he came back 2 weeks later. He was like a changed man. And then I said to him, I said, well, what does your wife think about all these changes? He looked at me and he said, well, Barb, you've saved my marriage. Because now they were doing it together. Oh, light bulb moment.
Makes a big difference in terms of that. And we all have those moments. One of my moments was when I was working for one of the largest insurance companies in Canada. And that was fine. I loved every minute of it. And somebody laid down the gauntlet and said, well, if you don't take your part-time business full-time by the time you're 40, you never will. And I was really insulted. I went home and thought, went in the next day and handed in my resignation, said, I'll be out of here in 2 weeks. Done. And so now 45 years in business, working for myself, part-time and then full-time. I love every minute of it. And being able to say to people, draw the line in the sand. Partly what you're saying there, Barb. Draw the line in the sand and decide when you're going to make the difference, because that itself is that starting point. That one young gal who always wanted to be a singer, but was in the medical field. And we said, like, okay, you want to be the singer. When are you going to be the singer? And she chose 11 months out, exact date. And on that day, she handed in her resignation. She was gone, and she's been singing ever since. Like, those are the kinds of things that make us feel good because people make the changes that they need to make. So, Paul, I can see your head going this way. So,
yeah, well, so
turn over to you.
So this healthcare crisis that we're facing, you're telling doctors to quit and go sing? You're killing me, Jerry.
Well, fortunately, she wasn't a doctor because we need those two.
No, that is. I think that is having somebody tell you that. But we talked about just people not being aware of life coaches in general and business coaches and this and that. And as I consider myself a coach. I was a rugby coach. And so for me, you take a look and you're like, if you wanted help with your taxes, you get an accountant. If you want help with your, physical, you get a physio trainer. If you need help, like there's professionals out there for everything. And it's just strange to me that we don't utilize it more often, but also that it's not really discussed. We've kind of got this society where it's like, okay, your parents are going to do the best they can. And this, just to clarify, I got a great relationship with my parents. I think they did a great job, especially did the best that they could, right? But they were amateurs, right? Yeah. As your parents were amateurs, your parents were amateurs. They're just doing the best they can. And so the things that we need to learn to function as high functioning human beings are not necessarily coming at us in a structured fashion. And, you learn your reading, writing, arithmetic, and that gets you so that you can do your high school and you move on and do university courses and stuff. But at the same time, this introspection and goal setting and these types of things, accountability, holding up a mirror to yourself and trying to figure out, who do I want to be and who am I and how far apart are those? And how do I identify that and how do I fix that? And so it is just reaching out and trying to get some outside help for that, and picking and choosing these battles, right? There's tons of life experience that people get in completely different things that just can be used to build who they are as a person, right? Like, and Paul, you had an interesting school experience, for example. Like, what was your? Remind me.
Like my university?
Yeah.
I went to U of S, and then I did a master's degree in international relations in Berlin, Germany.
Yeah, so I mean that's going to affect who you are as a person, right? And I'm sure you got some academic coaching on where you're going to go and how you're going to pick your field and how you're going to do your stuff. And yeah, along the way, are they? Oh, okay. Well,
I don't think
well,
I did actually. I actually really remember I was on an exchange. I did an exchange after high school, which I highly recommend. And to go back to parents, I had parents who traveled a lot. So I mean, like we grew up with this mentality about traveling, especially in Europe. Excuse me. And I was actually in France, and it was an awesome year. It was after high school. It was just a little adventure. I was lucky to do little adventures all over the place when I was young, and I remember, planning to go to university and talking to my parents about picking what I should do, and politics stuck out. It was a no brainer for me. And in hindsight, it still is, even though it doesn't necessarily um, equate to what I'm doing as a publisher and focusing on business content, but it does, like in a roundabout way. Um, so it was just I was on that line to be, in that academic realm. I think one way or the other.
I think you used a very appropriate word, like that you were lucky enough to get that travel in early, right? This is obviously not something that everybody has, and you know, this is and so I mean, obviously, everybody comes from different situations and different circumstances and stuff, but being able to have your mind opened like that, get a glimpse of the world, and there's ways to do that too. I think travel. I think, man, I just think travel is so important, right? Get out, meet new people, and see the world. Um, and But it's not something that's readily available to everybody, and so I think that's another part. I think a huge part of travel is and always has been what you bring back, right? And not the stuff in the suitcase. So to be able to have people going out and seeing the way the world works in different places, and then bring that back into the communities, that's a form of that coaching too, right? So being able to give access to the world to people that might not have access to the world.
You talked a little bit about moments that kind of made you pivot, I guess, and a friend of mine owns a jewelry company that she started in Regina. It's called Hilberg and Burke, and we coexist with them in this building. We co-have their offices and their fabrication are here, but integrated. But a few years back, she had a health scare and decided, what am I waiting for? I'm going to move to Vancouver Island, where we were going to retire, but why not do it now? And why can't I do that remotely? And I said, geez, if somebody who has a big business based in Saskatchewan with a factory and all these staff and these locations across Canada can run a business from BC, how can I do that? And I'm in real estate selling houses, and I'm like, geez, how can I show a house remotely? I can't. But I tried to figure out, it was part of the motivation to start my own little office, but it was always, how can we run this paperless? How can we run it remotely? How can we run it so we don't have to be in the office all the time? I had read a book called Clockwork. I forget who the author is. And it was all about having your business run without you. And so one of the big things is to try and test some time away. And so that's 3 weeks this summer when we go to Europe and travel, because I think travel is important for the 10-year-old to meet my family in Wales. And we're going to go to Italy and France and a Taylor Swift concert in Switzerland and all the good things. So so it's going to be a good test to be away for 3 weeks and have the business run without you. And that was always the goal of, how can the business run without me when I want to travel and be around the world? And Jasmine's been doing that. And I think that's really important. So that's integration, right?
Yeah.
Bryn, my first experiment in running my business remotely was 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then the next one was about 2.5 months in the Balkans, like in the former Yugoslavia.
Oh, wow.
And after that was I started in Vietnam, and I haven't left Southeast Asia.
Oh,
in
wow.
about it's going to come up on a year and a half pretty soon. So just warning you, you are
There you
on
go.
the path
Yeah, I'm on the
to
path.
freedom.
I won't be around. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I was.
I had that pivoting moment too, though. Sorry, Paul. I had that pivoting moment too, where for me it was the loss of a friend, and he was sick for 3 months and died of brain cancer, and he was right around 50, and that's only a few years older than me. And I decided at that point, like, peace
What are,
out.
what are
I'm
we waiting
not
for,
sitting
right?
in this condo running my business from here. I
Yeah.
can do this anywhere, and I'm out. So yeah, that's when I decided to travel, take it on the road.
Good for you.
Just some light subject matter on a Friday morning, Friday night for you, but it's like you don't, and we're trained to that. Like we don't want to be overwhelmed. You don't want to be curled up under your desk at all times thinking about the futility and the mortality of it. But we don't. Nobody knows, right? And I think it's funny when you get to funerals or memorials, something like that. It's just really a time of reflection, but there's nothing. there is no guarantee, right? And so to be waiting for something to happen outside, or to have something, and with it, like, there's a reasonable and realistic way to go about it. And I think that comes back down to that coaching. I mean, nobody's saying throw off the we got bills to pay and stuff like that, right? But so there's realistic ways to do things. But if you're waiting for something, just be aware that this is the best laid plans of mice and men, right? You don't know what's going to happen, so you might as well. It's going to happen anyways. You might as well be happy while you're heading towards that. So.
Well, that's one of the things that I like working with my clients with, is that so often we hear people saying, well, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I'm a kid and I can move out of my parents' house. I'll be happy when I finish university and get that dream job. Or I'm going to be happy when I can quit my job and retire. Well, you know what? You never know what that's going to be, when that's going to be. And I think that is one of the biggest things, and why these types of shows, and one of the reasons why Sherry and I said, we need to start something to be able to talk about this, because I think Paul Burch, I think it was you that said so many people aren't talking about it. Yeah. And we have to be able to give people that, oh, I heard 6 people say that they've done it. Well, if 6 people can do it, then why can't I be a person that can do it? And I think that is why it is so important to get this out there now, while people do have the opportunity, that because we can work from anywhere. Let's say it's more like, last night I was waiting for my grandkids. They were at a sporting event and I was working because I was on my phone and I was just sitting waiting for them. And that's the beauty of it. But we have to know that it's out there.
For sure. And I think, it does come down to, not everyone has the ability to work remotely at what they're currently doing. And a lot of those types of jobs are critical. So again, we don't want people walking off the job because, they're having a bad day, or they want to retire today. But yeah, it is. To me, I've always thought, if you're miserable at your job, at a very minimum, you should be grateful that you have a job, right? Like it allows you to do other stuff. And if you're truly that miserable at your job, there's other jobs out there, right? And so I know it sounds kind of glib, but that integrated life too, making sure that we're not letting it creep in. And I think realtors, for sure, how do you get your evenings and weekends back? Because it's tough. You don't want to be, you want to be enjoying your moments, but your lifestyle allows you to afford, and the flexibility to be at events and stuff like that. So how have you found that when you were talking about that?
It's really tricky. And some never do find it. And I've been on beaches where you finally get away, and it feels like you can't just say, hey, my daughter's birthday is today or something. They're like, well, when's the birthday done? Let's go see the house then. But if you say I'm in Mexico, they're like, oh, call me when you're back. And so I think that's why realtors travel so much, because they're like, I got to get away so that I can't go show that house. I can't just take a week off at home. I'll end up working. So I think that's why they travel so much. But I've been on those beaches writing offers and stuff, and it's so silly. You finally get away and you're still working. But so we're trying to figure it out. But one of the ideas is I'm trying to encourage everybody to have a few weeks a year where they actually like black it out, and everybody else has to cover for them, and they're allowed so many days like that a year that we have to cover for each other. There's also these junior agents that are just started and they're trying to get their business going, and they don't know how to get out there, and they're not that busy yet. And they're like, hey, I'm available Saturday. Just send me the address and I'll run around and I'll go meet people on your behalf. And we keep them busy, and they get so much per trip or whatever they do from the experienced agents. And it's a way of spreading that out a little bit. And so if you have the right tools and the right culture and the right environment and sometimes it'll help, but it's going to take some time to find that integration. So
nice. Some of the physical limitations.
Can I just pop in with something? My wife wanted me to mention this, and this fits well. It's, we're talking about work-life balance and integration, and you guys you're talking about getting away from work and vacationing and doing work and whatnot. But there's even like on a more micro level, I think the huge necessity to do little things in your day-to-day lives of getting away. And one thing that we've instituted, and it's a really good rule, like we have no screen Sunday. So like the phones are away and we're just together, and okay, and during NFL season we're watching. Like the phones are away, and it's a really good rule. And we're even now turning off the television at dinner time. Like the TV is off. And I grew up in a household where the TV was on during dinner time, and Dad wanted to watch the news, but we really like just having nothing and just sitting as a family. And especially I mean anybody with kids knows, like, it's such a precious age when they're little and they're you're feeding them, and it's so much more valuable just to be engaged with them and not have any distraction.
Yeah.
So.
No, and you're right. It's not just travel. We got to find that balance. Whether it's that walk you go for and leave the phone at home, or whatever it is, just to have that. And I think that's a big part of why I'm trying to step away from the volunteer stuff I'm doing. Is do I have capacity? I could probably have capacity to do it and jump in and help there and go to this game and help. But it's the mind space that it takes up, and you're thinking about what's next. And if you could just clear some of that mind space so you can be better at what you're trying to do with your full-time gig, that means, I think that goes a long ways. I think you're more creative. You're not thinking of all this other stuff, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be spread too thin and give a little bit to everybody. You're better off to give quality to the projects that you have the capacity for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also think there is that X factor you get with the family that you have time to spend with, right? Like, you don't get that back. And taking a day a week where you're not on the screens and spending that time with your family, that's stuff over time, that's some quality minutes, right? And even if it's just a few minutes a day that you're really focused on, those things add up, right? Like that compound interest of a few minutes a day over the course of a kid's life or your partner's life. And it makes a big deal. And it's maybe it's just the weather. It's a little bit overcast here, but you don't get the time back, and it doesn't matter what you're doing around the work. Nobody ever said, "Man, I wish I'd spent more time at the office," as they're on their way out, right? So, and most of the time you're going to spend with your kids is over by the time they're 10 or 15 years old, right? There's a little window, and after that, you're going to be a part of their life. So jumping in is pretty critical.
Makes a big difference in terms of how we look at things. And I like what you say there, Paul, about, on their deathbed, nobody says, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. The difficulty is that many people don't even think about that until that time. And then it's too late. We have to do what we need to do now to integrate, to balance, etc., so that we lead the lives we want to lead. And yes, I don't care. Life throws curveballs at us and we have to deal with that. But that doesn't mean we have to stay there. So there's been so many nuggets here that have come forward today. So I want to look at you and say, okay, what did you pick up today that might be something that's of value to you from your other people here that are on the show, etc. So who wants to go first?
I will.
Bryn, you're on.
I just love what Paul said about the no screen time, and we're bad at that, and especially at dinner, and we need to do that and find some time on the weekend to do that. And just hearing from Jasmine, being able to just go and do it, and instead of wait, and figure out how to get that travel time in and work remotely as much as possible. So I have some good nuggets and whatever from Paul. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
Oh, good show. Okay, Paul. Which one, right? Paul Burch.
Sounds good.
Paul Huber, I'm sorry. I should have put you first. We haven't talked in quite a long time, you and I, Paul.
No, and this has just been great, and this was hopefully everybody else got something out of this. But I knew that if we put these, this group in a little conversation, we'd get some good talk out of it. I really want to thank Barb and Sherry for putting this together, and Paul and Jasmine and Bryn for joining me. It's like, and I know I've said this before, Jasmine, but every time we hang out, I just feel more motivated and aligned for business. Like there's something about the way that you operate that just puts alignment. To Paul and Bryn, this is Huber. It's always awesome getting your opinion and your perspective and seeing what things that you're working on. It's been great for me over the years to work with you and watch your business growing and see your family growing now too. And always appreciate your time and opinion. And that the no screen Sundays, that sounds terrible. It sounds very beneficial, but yeah, we have a big part of our, we've got screenless time throughout the week, so we can watch the football on Sunday. And my daughter who is almost 2, I feel my wife did a great job, and I helped with keeping the screens away as long as possible. But she does love watching sports, and it's quite cute. She can't talk yet, but she still cheers for hockey and volleyball and the basketball. And she was March Madness blew her mind. It was great. Bryn, as always, my friend, coming away from a conversation with you, just thinking I need to level up. So I really appreciate everybody's time coming on and see what people are up to, because there's been some fantastic stuff that we covered here. So thanks.
Paul Huber, what did you pick up? Let's summarize. What do you take?
Well, I think Burch summarized it very well, and I don't think I can do it much better than that. Just these are good occasions to connect with peers and share these ideas, and it's important. It's such an important topic. Like let's be real. So just everybody, thanks for sharing, and it's always interesting to sit down at these round tables, if we can call it that.
Very much so. Jasmine.
Yeah, for me, it's a good reminder also, to be present and really enjoy the minutes. We cut off the workday, my husband and I as well. And it's so valuable to just like have that line and then go do our thing. So really to be present, and also, something Paul Burch, I think you said a while ago, was just this idea of, what does ideal look like? And often, we're talking about how do you grow into that? Who is that version of you? Because they're different than you are today. And how are you growing into that to get there, to get yourself wherever you actually want to be? I think is really valuable. So thank you all as well. That was a great conversation.
It has been. It's been fun too. Everybody's coming from a different perspective, and yet we all look at our lives and go, okay, what am I going to do with this life that I've got? So, Barbara, what are you going to do?
I think for me, part of why I love this show too is that for me is that I'm not alone in wanting something more than what I had. Like at the time, I wanted something more than what I had. I just didn't know how to get it. And now seeing all the different people that have taken things in their lives and made it unique and I love that word. That's going to be my new word. Thank you. Integrate my life into the things that I really want to do. Like I like to spend time with my grandchildren and do things and take a trip. And this week I had the pleasure of meeting a friend of mine that we have been friends for 5 or 6 years. And it was the first time we had been in the same room with each other.
Wow.
And it was awesome because I love the opportunity of working online. Look, we're from all different parts of the country and the world, really. And yet we're all working together. But won't it be nice if we can just have the wherewithal to just go and visit? Oh, Jasmine, I'll put Thailand on my list. And I think that's what when we have discussions like this, even if one person says can spark one thing, oh, it's been a successful broadcast. And so one of the things on a housekeeping note, I've put everybody's contact information in the chat of the stream, in the comments of the stream. Reach out to somebody. If somebody piqued your interest, reach out to them. Mm-hmm. Reach out to them because you never know where that communication is going to lead.
And if you would like to be on our show here, reach out to Barbara or me because we would love to have you on the show as well. We book far enough ahead that it's not a really difficult opportunity to get yourself organized. And it's not very onerous as well. Right, Paul?
No, it was super straightforward. Yeah, the hardest part was getting Bryn the right link.
Wonderful. Good show. Oh, dear. Everybody here having that opportunity to share your thoughts, share your organization that you do so that you can have the life that you want to lead. And I think the number one thing there is recognizing the life that you want to lead. And it sounds like there's been some pretty aha moments in your lives that have made that come true. It's amazing in terms of once we have that realization, what we can do with it. Authors, business people, coaches, it doesn't matter what you are, as long as you love what you do and you keep doing it. And I know, Paul, you alluded to this, Paul Burch, you said, we need everybody doing all the jobs in the world because we have to help each other with that. And every job is viable. At one time, my husband was the head of Coca-Cola here in the province. And with that, it was, you treat the CEO the same way that you treat the janitor, because without everything being cleaned up, you've got a mess. You can't carry on. And that's what we're talking about here. Not having the mess in our lives. How can we help other people to help us to be the best that we can possibly be? And it makes a tremendous difference. So any other words before we close things off today?
Now people know I love a platform. So I will just wrap up saying thanks once again to everyone that joined today, Paul and Jasmine and Bryn. Really appreciate your time and insight as always. And yeah, this is all we had to do to hang out was just put it in the calendar and make it happen, right? So don't be strangers.
Well, thank you all for joining us. And for those of you who are out there listening, we are thrilled to have had you with us. We've got Paul Burch, we've got Paul Huber, we've got Jasmine Benson. And Bryn, I've forgotten your last name already.
It's Wear-It.
Wear-It. Thank you very much. Barbara Ellison is co-host with me, Sherry Knight, Dimension 11. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.